Hey guys, Mike with Long Range at the Lilies. Still on the road, just finished up with the AG Cup. Got some more work to handle while I'm out on the road. And I wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys and to do a video kind of inspired by recent events. And so let me get into that. So I just finished up the AG Cup. There was some controversy at the AG Cup. And then there was some controversy like the very next day about some stuff that happened at the PRS Room Fire finale. And at first it like really irritated me. And I was gonna do a video, but it was coming off as kind of a dad talk. And I'm not any of your dads, I hope, reasonably sure. Moving on. Anyway, I didn't want to do that. So I thought the way I would handle it is I would talk about the 5 things that I love about competing in precision rifle, and then the 5 things that I really don't like, or 5 things that I hate. I am a firm believer though, that if you have a disagreement or something you don't like about, a community or a sport or whatever it is you're involved in, that you should offer a solution, and I'm gonna attempt to do that too. So the 5 things that I really don't like, or 5 things that I quote unquote hate, I'm gonna try and offer a solution to at least start a conversation civilly, so we can, move forward and maybe improve things. So I'm going to do this. I'll say one thing that I love and one thing that I hate, and I'm going to start at number 5 and move down to number 1 of each. So number 5 of the things that I love, and this is going to sound ridiculous, I love that you can never be perfect in this game. There's always something to work on. There's always something to get better at. It's super hard, and I love that. Maybe that's just me. I have a feeling it's not, or else we wouldn't be there. But I love that, no matter how hard or how good you are, how much money you spend, you're never going to be perfect, and there's always something you can work on, and that motivates me to keep improving and to keep working at it. Number 5 on the list of things that I hate. I hate that it is not an individual sport. And when I say that, I'm talking about PRS/NRL matches, and I'm not talking about Hunter Series. That's an entirely different thing. I hate that we talk about it as if it's an individual sport and we're ranked individually, but reality is the matches are not shot as individuals. I know that I have both benefited and been hurt by what squad I'm in, the super squad, or a squad where you don't know anybody, or nobody's sharing information. If you were shooting at a match and everybody's sharing information and everybody's sharing win calls, your scores will go up. And if you're not, your scores will go down. I mean, there's really just no arguing this. How do I think we could fix this? Well, I think that we as shooters establish our community, right? We establish what is acceptable behavior for us and what is not. And people are like, Mike, you will never get rid of sharing win calls. And I said, I disagree. I think we can. I think it just takes a culture of not accepting that. So for example, I just shot the AG Cup, and it was a smaller match. It was 36 shooters, squads of 7 or 8 people, and nobody was sharing equipment. Nobody was sharing win calls, and there was none of that. And you were completely on your own. And it was, other than the Hunter Series, it was the first example I had seen of this game being shot truly as an individual sport, and I loved it. I hate it when somebody can look at somebody and say, oh, they're only that good because they shoot with so-and-so. I think that we need to move back towards becoming an individual sport. I think it's possible. I don't think that the one thing I just said here is going to solve everything. I think it's, quote unquote, aspirational to move back towards being an individual sport, but I do think we need to do it. So number 4 on the things that I love seeing the process of improvement and hard work paying off, not only in myself, but in other people. I love helping a new shooter, or seeing a new shooter get into this sport and watching their growth and watching them, move up the ladder and get better. I believe it's rewarding both, in my own growth and performance. And it's also rewarding, excuse me, I can't talk for whatever reason today, to see a newer shooter grow. If you've never taken a chance or taken the time to mentor a new shooter and to watch them grow, I highly encourage you to do it, because it is very, very rewarding, guys. In my mind, it is almost as rewarding to see somebody grow and surpass you as a shooter as it is for you to grow and succeed as a shooter. Um, so that's the number 4 on the things that I love. So the number 4 on the things that I dislike or I hate is the evenness and the quality of matches. In my personal opinion, and I this is just Mike talking here, we all know that matches, not all matches are created equal. We all know that there are certain matches that you can go to and get a ton of points for finishing poorly. And there are other matches that if you don't win it or you're not in the top 2 or 3, you're getting less than 70% of the scores. A lot of people will talk about, East Coast, West Coast in this kind of talk. I disagree. I've definitely shot meatball matches on the West Coast, and I've definitely shot really hard matches on the East Coast. What I would like to see, and here's my recommendation for improvement, because again, I don't believe you should just, bitch about something on social media and not offer a solution, is I would like to see that qualifying matches that you need to get to the finale. So there's regular matches and then there's qualifiers. I wish that there were fewer of those qualifier matches, and I wish that those qualifier matches were done in conjunction with AG Cup matches, which are typically harder. I don't think that a qualifying match, you should score 94 points for being in 50th place. I think that we can do this. There's lots of tools, there's lots of metrics out there that evaluate the difficulty of matches. And I think that, over time, and I don't think that we can, implement a perfect solution now. But I think over time we can get to a point where we're having more fairness and evenness of matches, and one region isn't at a very distinct advantage for points going into the finale. So moving on to the number 3 thing that I love the competition. I love it. I enjoy the pressure. I enjoy shooting against people that are better than me. That's why I did the AG Cup this year. I didn't do the AG Cup because I thought, man, it's a lock. I'm going to win the AG Cup. I chose to compete in the AG Cup because I wanted to compete against the best shooters in the world and, find out where I stack up. And now I have, and I understand that I have some work to do, which leads me back to the process of improvement. And you can never be perfect. Like it's a cycle. It's always a reevaluation. It's work, get better, see where you're at, identify your weaknesses, work, get better, see where you're at, identify your weaknesses, and just continuous improvement. So I truly enjoy the competition. Even watching the final couple stages of the AG Cup and seeing the tremendous pressure that those guys were under was amazing. And I learned a lot from it, and I can't wait for next season already. Like I'm already ready to go for next season. Number 3 on the list of things that I dislike is the clickiness of regions. Now, I think I'm wording that a little poorly, so let me explain. I don't like that every region, I do like that every region is very proud of their region and they think their region is the best. What I don't like is when people act in the best interest of only their region. They only want the rules to favor their region, and they don't think about the country as a whole and the culture of the sport as a whole. They just want the rules to favor either their match as an MD or their shooters in their region. So I'm not going to go into like a lot of detail on this. How do I recommend solving it? I think that you should have to travel. I think that if you want to compete and you want to go for the finale and everything else, there are states that you can never leave your state and qualify for the finale. And there are other states where you've got to go, get on an airplane just to get to your third match. I think that you should have to travel. I think that it's pretty easy to implement that. A recommendation I would have is like, hey, you can only use 2 scores from your region, and then you have to use 1 from another region, or something to that effect, or maybe even 1 score from your region. If you want to compete for the PRS finale and the championship. If we're looking at being a nationwide series that is, universal and competitive for everybody, I don't think that you should be able to, never leave your state and take 300 points into the championship. I just don't think that's fair for other people. Again, my personal opinion, and that's just my recommendation. And I'm open to discuss all of these. I'm sure that not all of these opinions are popular, but that's the beauty of social media, is that we can talk about it rationally, ideally. But I'll get into that later. The number two thing that I really like is the culture of sharing and giving. I have never been to a match where I haven't seen somebody like, hey man, do you need to borrow this? You want this? Or a guy's scope will go down and a guy will give him one off of his gun. Manufacturers are doing a great thing with that too. You know, prize tables, everything else, like manufacturers and companies are truly giving in this sport, and the shooters are as well. If you ask a manufacturer or a business that is supported by this community, there's very little ROI or return on investment for prize tables. In fact, and I've talked about it before, is it's actually pretty rare that people even say thank you. But they do it because they want to support the community and they want to support the sport. And if you see these same companies on prize tables, then that's the company that you need to support when you're spending your hard-earned dollars. Give back to the companies and support the companies that support us. That's just me asking that of you. I love this about our sport. I love this about our culture, and I want to see it continue. So the number two thing, and these are kind of tied, that I really dislike or I hate, is the cost. This sport is so expensive. I know I said that you should have a solution. I don't really have a solution for this. I just have kind of a recommendation. Is if you're just getting into the sport, you know, my audience for this channel that Keely and I run is mostly aimed at newer shooters. So this is aimed specifically at the newer shooters. You don't have to spend a ton of money on reloading equipment, on a rifle, scopes, all this other stuff to get started. Get your feet wet, borrow stuff, bring what you have, get your feet wet, see if you even like it before you spend a ton of money. And then once you're bitten by the bug and you love it, feel free to go broke and in debt just like the rest of us. And then we'll talk about competing at national levels where you have to kind of travel a lot, which adds even more expenses. I hate that it's so expensive. I don't think that that's ever going to change. Again, my only recommendation is if you're new, you don't have to spend the money right away to get started. The number one thing that I love about this sport, hands down, without question, the people. I have traveled all over this country. I've shot in every region except kind of the extreme Northwest. I want to get up there, guys. I just haven't had a chance to. I know Keely really wants to get up to the Northeast as well, as she's got some family and some history up there. But I travel all over and I meet the best people, whether it's the Southeast, you know, the Midwest, you know, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, the Southwest, the Northwest, you know, Upper Central, you know, Michigan area, like the best people on the planet. And I think there's something to that. I think it's our culture. I think it's the people that gravitate towards a sport that's hard, and I love the people and the community, and I love that I can travel across the country to shoot a match and have a problem and be like, guys, I'm in trouble. I need somebody to pick me up from the airport. And people that I don't even know will come pick me up from the airport. Keith and Shelly Lane, you know, picked me up from the airport in Virginia. I'd never even met them before. And it wasn't because I have a YouTube channel or anything like that. It was just I was another shooter. They would have done that for anybody. And I like to think that there's a lot of people in this community that would do that. And that's what I love about this community. So easily, hands down, the number one thing that I love about this community. The number one thing that I dislike in this community is, if I love this community and its people so much and we're a big family, every family has that crazy uncle or aunt. And those are the people. So it's a double-edged sword. The number one thing that I hate or dislike in this community is also some of the people in this community. And more specifically, the way they act on social media. Social media is an incredible tool. You know, you can learn from it. You can share your experience. You can connect with people. It's a powerful teaching tool. It's a powerful information tool. But it can also, just like any tool, be wielded for bad purposes, spreading misinformation, spreading dissension, trying to tear down things. It's one thing that I really hate Uh, and I've seen lately it's a culture in America as a whole is we just love to tear people down. It's much harder to build somebody up than it is to tear people down. And I think that there's a small segment in our community that feels that way. And we need to carve that section out of our community like cancer. I am all about freedom of speech and being able to say how you feel. But I also believe that there's a right and wrong way to do it. And I think if you're somebody who is just going on social media to bash or tear down things, I've seen this in the NRL when they tried to propose a new rule to help make the sport broader to bring more people in, and a couple people just lost their friggin' minds and wanted to bash everything that the NRL 100 Series was trying to do. I've seen this in the PRS where there's an incident and everybody just, and again, let me take that back. I don't want to say everybody. It's like 3 or 4 people. If you read every controversial post and every controversial thread, there's like 3 or 4 people that get on there and they just hammer away and they try to pull in 3 or 4 more people to assist them. And then it makes it seem like such a bigger deal. It's typically worse in the off season, and we're just getting into the off season, so maybe that's part of it. But the way we act on social media as a community could use some improvement, and it is my number one gripe about things. It's super easy to bitch about things you don't like. It's super easy to bitch about things that negatively affect you without seeing the bigger picture of how things play out across the country. There's a right and wrong way to air your grievances. And those paths and those methods are laid out depending on which series you're in, the method for doing that. I don't believe that going on social media is the right way. I think we've lost sight of the fact that the best way to solve something is to go point to point direct with the person that you either have a problem with, or the series, whatever tool they have implemented. I'll use the PRS for example. They have regional directors that are supposed to handle all the issues in their region and then take those to the rules committee and make changes or whatever. So I think that we could do a better job about that. And so that's my gripe. And what's my recommendation for fixing it? Well, it's all of us. I think I've said it before, I'll say it again. We are in charge of our community. Each individual shooter has a voice, and we don't have to put up with this stuff. An example I'll use is golf. Golf has a very long history and culture of honesty and sportsmanship and stuff like that, and it's part of their culture. And if somebody is trying to go against that, the community as a whole really pushes that person out of the community. I'm not saying that we need to dogpile on everybody for everybody's little offense, but I definitely think that there is some people in this sport that don't need to be in their sport because of the way they behave and the way they act on social media. And I think it is up to us to police our own. I don't think we should be waiting for a series director or regional director or somebody quote unquote in charge to handle that person. I think we could all speak up and say, hey, that behavior, you're acting like a jackass right now and you need to stop. And then if the behavior continues, then we can go up the quote unquote chain and talk to people who are in a position to remove said person from the series. So I hate to end on a negative note, so I'll end on this. Overall, our sport is amazing. If it wasn't amazing, I wouldn't be shooting it and spending, almost all of mine and Keely's free time doing it. But I do think that we can improve some things, and I think it is up to us to improve those things. So I'm sure not all of my opinions are going to be well received. I'm sure some people feel differently. These are just my experiences and my personal opinions. If you guys want to chat about it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk about it. And I hope I didn't come across the wrong way. And again, we can talk about it. So guys, thanks for watching. We're at like 19 minutes now. If you've stuck this long, I applaud your intestinal fortitude. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for supporting the sport. And we'll see you out there in 2022.